Hello everyone, welcome to today's lesson. My name is Sihle Mgaga. Today we'll be looking at fractions, which forms part of your algebra. So we'll just do a few sums just to recap for those who have already done the fractions. Then for those who haven't done the fractions, it will be like a lesson that is worth the time. So let's just start with our first sum, which our first sum will be a 3 over 2, which is 3 over 2, plus a 1 over 3, 1 over 3. Then from here, we know that these sums, we refer to them as expression, since there's no equal sign, which will have made them to be an equation. So we are dealing with expressions. So from here, you start with your first step. Your first step is to find your lowest common denominator, of which you are to multiply the two denominators, which you go to say 2 times 3, and you get a 6. Then after getting a 6, you then go on to say 6 divided by a 2, what you get is a 3. Then the answer you get times the numerator. So it's times the numerator of the first fraction was a 3. Then we drop the sign, which is a plus. Then we go again to say 6 divided by 3, we get a 2. The answer you get times the numerator of that fraction, which in this instance is a 1, times 1. Then a 3 times 3, it's a 9, plus a 2 times 1 is still a 2. So what you get, it's 11 all over 6. So this would be your answer. This is how you solve a fraction without using your calculator, which this will give you full marks. And our second sum, it's a 5 over 2 plus a 3 all over 2. Then for this sum, we have two options. You can just take, since you see that both fractions, they share a denominator, they have the same denominator, 5 over 2, 3 over 2. So you can just take a 2 and write it here as your lowest common denominator. But just to avoid confusion, since on the first sum, we multiplied our both denominators, so we can still apply the same steps we applied on the first sum. So we can go on to say 2 times 2, and we get a 4. Then from there, we take our 4 divided by a 2. The answer we get is a 2. Then the answer we get, you say, times the numerator of that fraction, which will be times a 5. Then drop the sign, is a plus. Then we go again to say 4 divided by this 2. The answer you get is a 2. Then that 2 is, we must multiply it with the numerator of the fractions, which is a times 3. Then we continue to multiply it 2 times 5. We get a 10 plus a 2 times 3. We get a 6. Then divide by a 4. Then we continue to add a 10 plus a 6. We get a 16 divided by a 4, of which a 16 divided by a 4, our answer is a 4. 7 over 3 minus 1 over 2. Then we go on to find our LCD, where we multiply our denominators for the two fractions, which is 3 times 2, we get a 6. Then we go on to say 6 divided by 3, what we get is a 2. Then the answer we got times the numerator of that fraction, so it's going to be a times 7, drop the sign. Then again we go on to say 6 divided by 2, we get a 3. Then the answer we get times the numerator, which is a 1. Then from there we continue with our sum, where we are to multiply 2 times 7, we get a 14, minus 3 times a 1 is still a 3. So if a 14 minus 3, it's 11 all over 6, of which you can simplify it further from here. So our sum ends here. That's our answer. This is our fourth sum, which is a 9 all over 2 minus a 4 over 3. Then from here we're going to find LCD, where we multiply 2 times a 3, we get a 6. Then we go on to say 6 divided by 2, get a 3. The answer we got times the numerator, which is a 9. Then we drop the sign. Then 6 divided by 3, we get a 2. The answer we get times the numerator, which is times a 4. Then we go on to say multiply a 3 times 9, and we get a 27, subtracting 2 times 4, which is an 8 all over 6. Then we continue to subtract 27 minus 8, which will give us a 19 all over 6, of which this can't be simplified any further. So our answer is that 19 over 6. Yeah, we are done with this one.